Pulse 95 Live
at Expo Centre Sharjah.
Hello and welcome back right here to Pulse 95 Radio. We're broadcasting live at the Sharjah Expo Center. This is the International Photography Festival, the 6th edition of XPOSURE. And here with us, we have yet another guest. I'm joined by my guest co-host, Mike Browne, for the last couple of minutes.
You can't get rid of me.
But let's introduce Chris Rainier. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, Chris Rainier is a documentary photographer, filmmaker, a National Geographic Society Explorer, who's highly respected for his documentations of endangered cultures and traditional languages. His photography, his work, his books have been widely shown and collected by museums worldwide. He's a man on a mission to preserve the world's endangered biodiversity and traditional culture. We welcome him here. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks. It's a great pleasure.
And I got the chance to see you at the opening ceremony. You talked about your 10-year documentation of the tribes of New Guinea. Mm-hmm. You had this wonderful way of when they asked you where you were from, mm-hmm. and they were like, which valley? And you would say, they concluded that, oh, you're from the valley where the green meets the blue.
Right.
Yeah, and you put it in a way where that we're all from the valley where the green meets the blue, that no matter where we are in the world, no matter how different we can be in all our backgrounds, we're all just the same.
Absolutely. You know, the older I get and hopefully wiser, I've begun to realize, you know, I'm paid to go photograph people's differences, the exotic, the diverse. And yet, as I've traveled, I've come to realize that we're really all one tribe. We really are all one brothers and sisters. Science has proven that we all, in one way or another, come from Africa. We've taken that sort of step out of the Garden of Eden. And I think that's the beautiful thing, regardless of whether I'm in the middle of isolated tribes in New Guinea or here or anywhere in the world, we find common connections. We find ways to be able to communicate. Even if I don't have a translator, I can, through nonverbal communication, sit down with that elder on the mountain in New Guinea and talk about where the green meets the blue.
And you also talk about the way we can save our planet is by, protecting and preserving the indigenous tribes, that they are the guardians of our most precious landscapes.
Absolutely. So many of these traditional cultures only have oral languages, so the traditions are passed on from fathers down to sons, mothers down to daughters. Of the 6,000 languages spoken on the planet today, 80% are oral. So that transmission of information has happened over thousands of generations, and it is an accumulative database. We talk about preserving a seed bank of plants and seeds and even animals, but very rarely do we think about this human knowledge base that we have on the planet today. And every 2 weeks, an elder that speaks an oral language passes away. That's like watching a vast library of knowledge burn down every 2 weeks. We're at this catastrophic moment where, if we're not careful, we will lose a tremendous amount of information and stories and empirical evidence of how to look after this planet, how to be truly sustainable. So our mission at the foundation that I co-direct with my partner Olivia, Cultural Sanctuaries Foundation, we're in a race against time to document and archive that knowledge and support and amplify their stories and their ability to tell stories with technology. So we're invited, we go in with cameras, video cameras, audio systems, train them if they so desire, and then let them tell their own stories and share it with the world.
Chris, can I ask, you're a great storyteller. That is what people at XPOSURE are for. That's what we do. And the story you told at that opening ceremony, it was really passionate, inspiring and moving, told in your lovely, delicate voice. Where did your passion for storytelling come from?
At a very young age, I had the unique opportunity because of my great aunt was a very well-known composer and artist living in England. So she would have these sort of Sunday afternoon salons where she would invite artists, and these were some of the top artists of the time: Henry Moore, Benjamin Britten, Barbara Hepworth, great intellectuals, and they would share stories. So at a very early age, I was getting infused with the idea of the power of art, the power of storytelling. And along the way, doing assignment work, I've had the great privilege of working with some of the great photojournalists of our time, great authors, people like Pico Iyer, Terry Tempest Williams, Paul Thoreau. And I went, this writing thing is pretty good. Maybe I should start writing. And I actually love passionately writing and therefore speaking as well. I'm terrified on stage, but I think it's important to be able to articulate your photographs as well.
Absolutely. And you give no hint of being afraid on stage, by the way, no matter what the butterflies are. You were saying this, incredibly prestigious company within which you heard stories told, but also as a photographer, you learnt at the hands of probably one of the most famous photographers of all times, Mr. Ansel Adams. And that's an extraordinary thing for me sitting here talking to you, thinking, wow, this man was taught by Ansel Adams. He must know how to take a picture. What was he? What was your relationship? What was that like?
I was very lucky. As I was graduating from photography school, I took a workshop from Ansel in Yosemite. I had never been to Yosemite before, and I vividly remember driving into the valley going, gosh, it's green, it's color here. Because, of course, his images are iconic black and white images. And a very gentle soul, someone who just had a whole philosophy of pass it on. There are no secrets, just keep passing it on. And so he invited me to come and show a portfolio several weeks before I was graduating from photography school. And I sat at his feet, so to speak, and showed him the portfolio. And he said, what are you doing after you graduate? And I remember this kind of slow motion. There was a Y in the road of what should I say? And I said, working for you. And he sort of laughed and he said, why not? See you in 2 weeks. Profoundly changed my life. I think obviously it was like getting a PhD in photography, the zone system, f-stops, printing in the darkroom, but far more than that was the soul of what makes an artist tick. And I had the great privilege of, he had 60,000 negatives, 8x10 predominantly, that he had taken over his, at that point, 70-year career. And I made a proof print of all of them. It was something that had never been done. So I started with his very first negative and evolved all the way through. So I had the chance to see his failures, his determination, discovering some of the great classics of his work. Took 20 years before he actually got the decisive moment, things coming together. And then being in the darkroom with him. But also, above and beyond being around Ansel, there was a constant entourage of some of the world's top artists coming through. Vladimir Ashkenazy, the painter, got to know Georgia O'Keeffe very well. Jimmy Carter, the president at that time, became a good friend and would come and stay. So I just, I was the fly on the wall. I was actually the official mixologist at cocktail hour. So I would make drinks and make everybody a drink and then sit down and just listen to what was going on. So it was a very profoundly influential time for me, because what I saw was a remarkable artist, but I also saw someone using their photography as a social tool to make the world a better place, and that has stuck with me profoundly.
This is such a key thing, and having seen these incredible exhibitions here at Exposure, yours is kind of different. And I would urge anybody listening to this gently spoken man opposite me to come and look at his work. This is your last chance. This is the last day, because it is extraordinarily beautiful.
Thank you.
and so profound. And there are techniques I know you use within your photography which are not digital techniques,
No.
which must hark back to your tutor.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, what is there is a beauty. Would you say you're a photographer or an artist? Because these two show.
Thank you. Well, I think I have a strong art background. I use the camera, but whatever camera works. I'm not attached to a large format or, I've used little plastic Diana cameras. There's a couple images in this exhibit that are tilt shift. So I kind of play around. And, Ansel had this wonderful kind of pre-visualization. And I think for any of the students out there, you have to work at this. There's the 10,000 hour thing. It's like you've just got to roll 50,000 frames through your camera, and then you learn to have a voice. And then for me now, I have a really clear understanding of what my voice is, and so I just bring in whatever tool fulfills that. And again, Ansel would say the negative was the score, as in a musical score. The print is the performance, so you can manipulate that print in any way.
Do I have time to ask another one?
We might have to wrap up.
You carry
But
on, Mikey.
I do want everyone to go ahead and check your exhibition. It's titled Where Masks Still Dance.
Yeah, and it's a kind of combination, but I'm going to retitle it at this moment, Cultures on the Edge.
Yes, and I want to also give support to your foundation, to those who are looking to better understand how to preserve indigenous tribes, dying languages, and cultures. Please visit culturalsanctuaries.org. Honestly, I feel really honored to have met you and all the people that are at this event, and to all of your next projects with your foundation, your personal pursuits. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Likewise.
It's a great honor.
Let's take a bit of a break and let's wrap up the hour, giving you a bit details of what to expect right here at the 6th edition of Exposure at Pulse 95.